Hi, this is Jason Long with JH Media Group, and in this video we're going to take you through some work that we did for a factory that runs on a 3-shift, 24-hour operating schedule. We rebuilt the scheduling system for this factory, and we're in the process now of building all sorts of other tools for the factory system. This includes resource allocation, billing, shipping, freight, all sorts of things. But this was a first step in that process, or in that project. I hope you find this interesting, and if you need any help with this, please let us know. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is what this client sent us first. This, by the way, was a project for a factory to help them schedule their jobs. So the client sent us this information. This was about 150 pages of breakdowns and information and database tables and all the different pieces of the project. It explained how they thought everything should work, how they were currently envisioning things, what the current systems were, what the flows were, what the databases were, all this information. It was a pretty substantial amount of information. It took us a while to kind of digest that. So afterwards, we kind of got all this information together, and then we took a trip up to see them. And we get to see how they were currently doing everything. So you can see they were currently scheduling all their projects on a big giant board like these right here. So they would schedule everything out, and what they wanted and what they were engaging us to do was to build this system in a digital format. So anyway, so we were up there and we took pictures of what they were doing and how they were doing it and all these different things. And we went home and we put together some drawings. This was just one of the drawings that we did because I went looking for my old ones and I couldn't find what I had originally done with the original drawings. But this was one of them. This was actually just the start of what I was working on. I have some really complex drawings as well. But we started working on this, and we send these kind of drawings back and forth to the client, and we'd say, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this question? What about this problem? Etc. Once we got several drawings in, then we said, okay, cool, we're ready to take this to a digital format now. So then we went to this. Now, hold on, is that the right one? I think it was, yeah, it was this one. So then we went to something like this. This was kind of our original set of wireframes and ideas for this project. And you can see down here, I had all sorts of questions about the way things were working, and we didn't really understand processes, etc. And you can see in here how we made it so you could click through everything. You could see if I clicked here, then I got that. Let me see where my clicks are in here. If I clicked here, then I could see descriptions. There's all sorts of things in here that we could do. So we got into this, and we sent this over to the client. And the client said, oh, that's cool, but we had some other things in mind as well. And so we talked this back and forth. We talked about this functionality. We talked about how things work. And then we went through and we did another version. And so this was the second version. And this, you can see these funky colors kind of match, let me see if I can find it, what they had on the board. So originally, we didn't necessarily want to do all the colors they had, but we basically said, okay, cool, we're going to come back and we're going to do all your colors that we currently got them. And we had some other suggestions and ideas and all sorts of things. And we went through this again. So this was just drawing it out, or doing it digitally, but basically just working in a digital format, a drawing system where you could click through and I could produce these things, or we could produce these things fairly quickly. So you can see all the rollovers and, like what happens if people click, etc. So the user could see what all this stuff was supposed to do before they got in and started doing things, or before we got in and started building anything. They could see how it was going to work. So we went back, we met with them again, and they said, oh, that's great, fantastic, but what about this stuff? I'm like, oh, we didn't talk about that before. So yeah, I see where that's important now. So then we went back again, and we redrew it, and we ended up here. And then, at this point, we pretty well knew what went into this project. Like we were at a good spot for this project. We could see exactly how they wanted to get everything done. And you can tell this is the third iteration of this. Actually, more than the third. It's like the fourth or fifth iteration of this design. And now we've got all these other pieces going into it. We've got, oh man, all sorts of things. It's been really thought out by this point. So now, when we checked it with the client again, and they were like, oh, this is what we're looking for. This covers all the problems we had. This covers all the pieces we were looking for. It's getting really close to what we want. And keep in mind, by the way, this kind of system doesn't exist anywhere for what they're doing. So it's not like we could go somewhere else and kind of check it against something else. We were developing this stuff from scratch. So, it takes time to figure this stuff out and really, really think through it. But by this point, we just worked in design, which is way faster than working development. So we hadn't spent tons and tons of time working on developing something that we were just going to change. We just designed it, played around with it, showed the client, got feedback, made our changes, showed the client, went back again, etc. So at this point, the client came back and they said, okay, this is cool. This is a good project. I like the way this is going. You've got all the things. You've covered what we asked for and more. Let's go ahead and move on to code. And I think it was our turn to say, let's go on and move to code. But that wasn't where we were. Our next step in this process is to build an information architecture. And what that means is we have to write out how all these things work. And this is so important because even though it's in this design system, it doesn't account for every single potential thing that it could do. It does, like there's pieces in here that when you write it out, you're like, oh yeah, what about that logic? What if I do this thing that contradicts that thing? Oh yeah, we need to account for that. And so what we do is we come in and we write up this information architecture. And this information architecture is not loaded all the way. It's actually not loaded at all. I should have loaded it more before I started doing this. It's huge. It's like really huge. It's loading right now. It's going to take like a minute to load before it's all done, especially if there it goes. It's starting to load up. So you can see we broke each piece down by number of hours, each section. And this is just explanation still. This isn't even like what the thing does yet. There we go. Now it's starting to load up. So we broke down every feature, every section, every subsection, how it works, what goes into it, all the different pieces of the entire system. So now we know exactly what we're building, and the client knows exactly what we're building and exactly how much it's going to cost, what's going to go into it, how it's going to get done, etc., etc. So here, I think it's almost loaded. It's still loading. Like I said, it's going to take like a minute to load this thing. But we break down the whole entire thing. We know everything that goes into the system by the time we actually get started on the project. So then we can present this to the client and say, here is every single thing you asked for, every piece, broken down section by section, etc. And this is actually a bigger document than it looks like. Let me see if I can find one of these. Lock feature. When I click on this, it's going to open it up. This thing will load. There you go. And you can see how the hours are broken. There you go. This feature just notifies another admin when the user's working on something. It's a fairly simple feature, but you can see where the hours are going on it. So that's how that part is done. Now we have a sign off and everything. We have a plan for everything. We know how it's going to get built. We know what's going to go into it. We don't have to guess when we get there how things are going to work. We just go and build the project. So then we come into here. I'm not going to go into the actual process of building the thing because that I could talk for another like 5 hours on that. In fact, if you read my book, you can read all about that process or aspects of that process. But here you can see now we've actually built the thing. So here we can drag things in. There's logic saying, oh, you can't do that. That's not the right thing. There's pieces in here. You can turn things on, turn things off. I can drag things in, pull things around, all sorts of stuff in here. This system interfaces with all of their existing enterprise level systems, so they understand. So when you do something in the scheduling system, it's allocating materials, it's informing production people, it's working with billing. There's all sorts of things that go into this system. So I'm trying to show you something and it's not wanting to do for me. And this, by the way, is just this is my personal testing area, so it's not, it doesn't have all their data in there. But anyway, then it was done, and then we implemented the system, and we move along to the next system. And we've actually done several other projects for this client. So anyway, that's the process. When I talk about a design-first process, that's what I'm talking about. That's how the system works, and that's how we make sure we don't have to go back and redo work or change things around or refigure things. We already figured it out. We already planned it. We already scoped it. We know all the things, and then we go build it. And that's also what I meant by saying you don't have your blueprint ready. You just have a good idea of what you want. And you have to have the blueprint before you can build the house. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. People don't know what to do. They don't understand how to get things done. They don't know, where does the kitchen go? Where's this bathroom? What color are the tiles? What color are the doorknobs, etc. So I hope this was helpful for you. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good day. Here, I'll close that down. There you go. All right. Have a good day. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.